at 6:55. It is now 6:57. I am Joe McGivern, Chair of the City Council's Finance Committee. Members of the committee that are present are Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Tallman, Councilor Leahy. Councilor Bartley is with us. He may have stepped away for a minute. He was with us in the special meeting. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. Other city councilors present. I believe we still have Councilor Graney by phone. And
yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And at the moment, I think that's it. We have a number of guests and a number of items to get to. This meeting is Zoom. It is also being brought, Councilor Bartley's with us. This meeting is being done by Zoom, live by Zoom. It is also being broadcast live on our public access channel 15, and it's also being streamed. That also means because of that, it's being recorded, and those recordings are placed on the website almost immediately within a day or two. The committee is in order. We have all 5 members present now. The chair will entertain a motion to take up item number 1.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table.
Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So
Aye.
moved. Item 1 was introduced. Request from the building inspector to transfer $1,000 from local pay building inspector line item 12401-51111 into his pay overtime level 12401-51300. With us tonight is Mr. Cody. Damian, we have your request for transfer before us. We'd just like to hear from you as to why there is a surplus in the item you're removing money from and the purpose for which you wish to use the overtime money.
Hello. So I've asked for this a couple times in the last fiscal year. There's an open position for a building official. It's not been filled. We've only had one applicant in the last 12 months who wasn't qualified. So with the surplus, that's the explanation. And we have one person in the office that is eligible for overtime payment because of their collective bargaining unit. So this money is just paying for that person to work a little extra to do the work.
Any questions for Mr. Cody?
Yeah, Councilor McGivern.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Damon, for coming in. What position is it for, and what kind of work is it for?
This is, well, primarily it's code enforcement because the person in our office, that the local inspector is doing periodic inspections, and any code enforcement that we're doing, she's taking care of. So that's primarily what it's for. If you know, we have to do our mandatory inspections first, and if there's extra time and personnel, then we can put it towards more code enforcement.
Okay, and that's a good thing. A question came up in the chamber meeting this morning, and now that I'm talking to you, I think you might have something to do with it. A gentleman asked with code enforcement, like for instance, if a resident doesn't plow their sidewalks or their driveway within 24 hours, they can get fined. In Kmart Plaza, there's a lot of disruption and whatnot. Is it your department that goes and would cite them, or would it be the Board of Health, or who would cite like a plaza?
It depends on specifically what the item is, but even if you're looking to refer, they could be referred to us, and if it's not us, we will always get them in the right place. But parking, okay. Generally parking lots, if it's zoning, it's us, but it could be the city engineer actually if it's some other issues.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to pass it.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion on the floor is to pass, to adopt, and recommend to the full city council next week that they adopt this transfer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you, Damian.
Motion to take item 2 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 2 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 2 is in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. The City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the FY 2021 Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant Program for $19,512.22. There is no match. Grant authorizes that the establishment of a fund or other appropriate method for accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of said grant. We have with us from the fire department. Chief?
I'm here.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. You look good tonight. Chief Preskopowski, Jeff, could you walk us through this?
Sure. This is the FY21 Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant Program. It's administered by the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security under the auspices of the Department of Fire Services. The grant is in the amount of $19,512.22, and we're going to use the grant to purchase some much needed firefighting equipment. I'll break down what we're buying. We're buying $4,255 worth of new hose and nozzles, $9,764 worth of iPads. It's 14 iPads that are going to be mounted on each fire truck to help the guys and girls that are responding to emergency calls, give them greater capabilities. These iPads will store information for each address, and they'll also
That was 964.
What's that?
How much for the iPad?
The iPads are $9,764. There's 14 of them.
Thank you.
Yep. And the last piece of equipment is our extrication airbag system, which will be put on truck 2 up in the Highland section. That's for $5,492. And these airbags are used to lift heavy equipment in extrication emergencies, such as car accidents and things like that. We can lift.
And Chief, I think it's right in the grant. There's no match by the city. Jeff, you froze up a little bit.
There he is.
Oh.
Jeff,
Yep.
no match?
You froze up just at the end. You gave us the 3 items, the money, and I just asked about there's no match, correct?
No match. That's correct.
Any discussions, any questions for the chief?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Councilor Graney?
Yeah, just quickly through the chair to Chief. We have 14 pieces of apparatus that need these computers, or will they be going on the fire cars, the alarm car, and all the rest of them?
Councilor Graney, I didn't hear your question. Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, my question is, do we have 14 pieces of apparatus out there, or will these computers be mounted in the cars and like the alarm division and different other vehicles besides fire trucks?
Yeah, there'll be one placed in each apparatus and our cars, fire prevention cars, the alarm division cars. They're used for every piece of apparatus that we have. Frontline.
And that's a total of 14.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the provisions of the grant.
Second.
Motion made and second to accept the provisions of the grant and all requirements that are associated with the administration of the said grant, and report that to the full city council next week. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved, unanimous.
Motion to
Item
take
number
item number
3.
3 off the table.
Motion made and seconded to take item 3 off the table. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council accepts the provisions of the MASSDOT Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Program, a $72,000 no match grant that authorizes the establishment of fund and or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with said grant. With us this evening, I believe this comes under the Planning Economic Development Department, and I believe we have our city engineer with Aaron Vega, Bob Parent, to speak to the grant. Gentlemen, welcome, and please walk us through this.
Thank you, counselors. Good to see everybody. This is a shared streets grant. So again, commending the work that you've all done over the years on making sure that we look when we redo our streets that they're compatible for all forms of traffic and transportation. And so this is a grant that Cynthia Espinosa in my office worked on. She's doing very well. In case anyone's wondering, she had her baby about a month early, but she and baby are both doing well. Hopefully some of you get to check out the El Corazon project over the weekend or see some of the art that's up, another one of her projects that she's gotten to fruition too. So this was one of the grants she applied for before she took maternity leave. This is to install 3 new additional Valley bike stations. So this money will cover the cost of installation. The 3 locations are at Eli Park in the Flats, Spring and Main Street, and Pleasant Park, so across from the YMCA. There'll be another 3rd location. We are already working with them on the installation. They presented some plans to us, so we have some draft plans. Bob Parent has been working with them on that. HG&E is at the table as well, so we've been working full steam ahead to make sure that we can get these installed in a timely manner so that they can be utilized this season.
Thank you. Bob, did you want to add anything?
I just want to stress that there's a very tight time frame for this money. It has to be expended before June 30th. So assuming the council votes to accept this grant, we need to get to work, get quotes on the required work, and get it constructed before June.
Okay. Is there a reason we're seeing this more and more, why we're getting these grants so late in the season with these time constraints? Is it just the states slowed down because of COVID, or?
Yeah, this is the 2nd round of shared streets projects. There was a round of shared streets projects that went out last spring and summer at the beginning of the pandemic era, where they're trying to create opportunities for people to get out onto the street. This came back around at us at the late fall, early winter, and they actually had 3 rounds of applications. And the last round of applications closed in March 24th. And we received word on April 6th that we received the grant. Yeah. So very short fuse, very short amount of time to get the work done.
Well, we appreciate the work, and I know the first round was put to good use, and I'm sure this round will be too. Sir, Councilor Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, Aaron, did you say one of the locations was across from the YMCA?
Yeah, it's called Pleasant Park, I believe. And it's across from the YMCA.
Pleasant Park.
Pleasant Park.
Yep. Councilor McGivern, didn't we vote to declare that surplus? Or wasn't there something going on to make it corner for a developer?
The surplus property is along the alley, on the back side of the park, the alley.
Not the whole park, just the,
it
used to be the Points Market, used a 2-story building, 3-story building actually. And it fell apart or burnt down years ago. And it was supposed to be incorporated into the park, but a private owner tried to swindle the city and get some money for it that it wasn't worth, and the city chose not to take the land. So the land's been sitting there vacant for decades.
Okay, that was my only question.
Councilor
I have a quick question, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Graney, be Councilor Tom, and then you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aaron, through the chair, how were these sites picked? Were they just, for those locations? I just wanted for the bikes.
Yeah, so there's a committee that worked on this, and I think that we also look at the impact that they can have. So we know that, again, Spring and Main Street, there's some good locations by having something by the YMCA. People may bike to the Y to work out and then have a bike right there for them. So there's a committee that works with the Valley Bike team, including the city, to work on the locations.
Okay. And how many does each one hold? Is it like 6 or 8 bikes each station?
Oh, each station I think has the capacity. I think it's at least 8 to 12. I think, Bob, maybe you know exactly. But again, they don't necessarily stay there, right? So some station you might drive by and only have 2 bikes there because they're out being used, and then the next day there'll be 10 bikes there. But they all have the the capacity for, I think, at least 8 bikes, if not 10. I
Okay.
can double check that.
And yeah, I've been seeing them utilized quite a bit in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Just one other quick question. So if I take a bike out, say up by Crozier Field, and I drive it around, then I can drop it off down by the YMCA.
Absolutely.
The station.
Exactly.
That's how they
Yep.
work. Okay.
Yep. If you wanted to take a bike and go to Northampton and then have your wife meet you for dinner and you don't want to bike back home, you can do that as well. So
And leave it
you
there.
can go to any station.
Any station. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Graney.
Yeah, just quickly through the chair to Aaron. Aaron, who's responsible for the maintenance of these locations? Is it the city of Holyoke or Valley Bike?
Ooh, good question, Counselor. I believe it's Valley Bike. The pure maintenance of it, if things go wrong, if things break, Valley Bike will come and repair them. If the station themselves is affected,
Yeah, I can add to that. The city's responsibility is to prepare the infrastructure for the installation of the bike station. The station itself is the responsibility of Valley Bike. So the kiosks, the bike holders, etc., are all maintained by Valley Bike.
Yeah.
So if vandalism or anything like that occurs, it's the responsibility of Valley Bike?
Yes, correct. And in fact, they've replaced early on. They replaced some of the frame. There's some graffiti and whatnot. Some of the glass. If there's any glass broken, yes, they will come and repair the maintenance repair. Exactly.
Okay, then the city of Holyoke has no financial responsibility for them. Then okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
If I could just interject one question, comment, kind of. I've always said this is a great program. I know Valley Bike is for profit. A grant like this helps the city perform our duties, which I understand. Just if you could just be careful to when these sites are chosen that we don't block the sidewalks. The one example of that is, and I've received no complaints because I think it's kind of a unusual sidewalk, is the island at the corner of Pleasant and where Dwight Street comes down and meets Pleasant, and it just kind of makes it's passable, but barely. But other than that, I think it's great. Most of them are a little bit off the sidewalk itself, and I see people every time I drive by one of them. This time of year, I see people getting a bike. It's incredible.
Yeah, all ages too. It's great. Young people. Yeah, it's great.
See a few people that shouldn't be riding bikes. But that's okay. Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion now. We accept the provisions of the MassDOT shared winter streets grant.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the provisions of the grant and everything that comes associated with the said grant and refer that to the full city council next Tuesday. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Aaron,
you.
is that it for you?
I think so.
Thank you.
I think I'll see you tomorrow at ordinance. So.
All right.
All right.
See
Have a
you
good
then.
night. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Make a motion to take up item number 4 off the table for
Second.
discussion.
Motion made and seconded to take item 4 off the table. And in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the COVID-19 vaccination capacity and confidence in priority communities response grant. It's for $151,192 with no match. Grant authorizes the establishment of fund for the method to appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of resources associated with the administration of said grant. I take it, Sean, you didn't write the title for this grant, but you are here to tell us about it, right?
Yeah, it's awfully wordy for sure. Yeah.
All right. If you could walk us through it, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, so certainly. So this grant is a result of part of the state's COVID-19 equity initiative. So we were one of the 20 equity communities that was selected by the state, and these communities were all offered these grants in a variety of different sizes based off of population. And so the idea behind these grants is to encourage, inform, coordinate people to get them to the vaccine. So the vaccine is no cost in and of itself. It does not cost the city any money. But this is to cover any expenses that we might encounter in, say, advertising. The state right now is supplying Archipelago Strategies Group, and they're beginning a door knocking and flyering campaign in the city to get information out about the vaccine. And so if they encountered costs, or if they had additional initiatives that they thought would be useful, or for instance, if we wanted to transport people to vaccine locations because we didn't feel that there was sufficient transit options, that's the nature of this grant. So we would be working with the Department of Public Health. There is a liaison that's provided to every equity community, and we would network with community partners like the health center or One Holyoke, but also some of the state's resources like ASG or the Red Cross has also come in, Behavioral Health Network. And this is just to enhance and sort of bring the access to the vaccine to a larger part of the community. There are a lot of people who want the vaccine and they're going to get it. And there's no work involved other than making it available. But there are a lot of people who are unsure, or they have misconceptions, or maybe they have some misinformation. And this is to help get people on the right track to make an informed decision about being vaccinated.
John D., can you elaborate, and thank you, but just a little bit on transportation? I get, and I know and certainly it seems like transportation has become an issue with not just elderly, but with all people to get them to a vaccination site. Even though 5 miles is supposedly everybody is close to one, some people just need that extra help, and I get that. With the collaboratives, the partners, whether it be One Holyoke, Red Cross, and BHN, how do you spend money with them, or how do they spend? Do they get a portion of the money and spend it themselves?
Well, so, a lot of the options you can sort of run by the state. But for instance, one of the ways that you might incur costs working with a nonprofit would be some of the models that we're seeing, like the health center take up. You can rent a bus or a portable, like a trailer or a space, and you can bring vaccine clinics to communities that need it. Instead of trying to bus people to a clinic, you bring the clinic down there. And so the costs that you might encounter are renting space, renting the bus, material costs for the vaccine, renting a tent to have people do their monitoring in, promotional items like flyering or advertising on the radio for the events to get the word out. Most of the partners that we've engaged thus far, there haven't been a lot of cost. BHN, the work that they do in Holyoke does not cost the city any money. One Holyoke's work in the community does not cost the city, but there are incidentals that come up. And some communities are exploring busing people to vaccine sites. So the regional vaccine clinic is opening up in Chicopee. That's going to be open much more during the week than our weekly clinic is. They have a higher dosage allotment. And so it may be that we help people get to that clinic because it's open during more convenient hours of the day. Or perhaps we provide resources to that clinic as well. We're a partner. So if they run into material costs or they need extra manpower, we can provide that as well.
And is there any salaries connected with the grant itself?
No, that is not an allowable cost. So we're not allowed to fund. We can cover like temporary, what's the word I'm looking for? Like if we needed some help for a clinic, we could do that, but we couldn't pay a salary, a yearly salary or anything. Temporary labor costs could be covered.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Councilor McGivern. Yeah, Sean. Hey, thanks so much for this information and the hard work you and your people are doing. It should be commended. It is commended. My question to you is, what percentage of the Holyoke population has been had the vax so far?
I'm sorry, I didn't have that in front of me. If you give me one moment, I can get it for you.
Or you can just email it to me or text it to me. Or
yeah, sure. So the state provides weekly updates on that, particularly for the equity communities. They give us a breakdown of the who's getting vaccinated and the rates, and they compare that in these spreadsheets to the state averages. And so I can send that along to you.
So just ballpark, because I know you don't have it in front of you. Are we trending?
We're doing very well.
Well, oh, we are? Okay.
We're doing well. So what happens is you're never really going to meet the state. Well, in a community of our size, it's difficult to meet the state's rates because the state's vaccination effort includes every community in the state except for your own. So we're always going to be trailing a little bit. But, you know, most of our target groups, because they break it down into age groups, they break it down by gender, they break it down by race, ethnicity, and we are not lagging behind. We're within the state's ideal margins, and in some cases, we're pretty close to being spot on with the state.
Oh, good. So I got both. I got the Pfizer. I got it up at the Bay State, which is on Whitney Ave, and I could not believe how efficient and what a great job they all did up there. And so all these first line healthcare workers, nurses, you know, my hat's off to all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We're really lucky. We have several really excellent clinics in the city, and I'm really pleased to be able to offer our own vaccine clinic. But you know, there's a lot to be said for the health centers clinic and Bay State Whitney Ave and even CVS. They've been running very smoothly.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Graney.
Just quickly, through the chair, Sean, could you define for me, please, what an equity community is?
Yeah. So the equity communities, as considered by the state, I'll read a little bit from the state's website. So it says, the 20 cities and towns are those hardest hit by COVID-19, taking into account case rates as well as the social determinants of health and the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Over centuries, discriminatory and exclusionary policies and practices have shaped where people live and work. These factors are part of the social determinants of health and directly impact residents' health as well as their access to opportunities that promote health. And so it says, these cities and towns met the Massachusetts COVID-19 Advisory Group recommendations to prioritize communities using the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index and COVID-19 case rates since the start of the pandemic. And so they looked at cultural, like the ethnicity of communities, and then they looked at case rates, and they looked at a couple other social and public health determinants, and they made a decision based off of those.
Thank you.
Councilor Tomlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean, through the chair, when does this money have to be expended by?
The end of the fiscal year.
Have you got enough time to do that, to expend it?
Anything that we don't spend, we can return, but I think we'll find a good purpose for it between now and then. We have a meeting on Thursday with all of the other 19 equity communities to sort of discuss what each community is doing, best practices, and the state's provided a lot of resources to help us realize what other communities are succeeding in and what's not working as well. So I believe so.
Okay, and another question, a quick question. Is there any thoughts of doing like a mobile clinic or unit in Holyoke?
Yeah, so we've actually done some mobile clinic. For instance, through our clinic that we have on Wednesdays, we went to the shelter that was at the Motel 6, and we vaccinated some of the shelter residents there. We have and are continuing to approach some different organizations about doing some of these clinics on site, but Action Ambulance can do that at any time. And then BHN, Berkshire Behavioral Health Network, has also been doing some what I'll call pop-up clinics, where they're in different locations in the city offering vaccines. So they have one this Wednesday in the Flats Community Center, while we'll be at the Senior Center. They had done some at Gateway City Arts. They had intended to do one at One Holyoke's community room as well, but I believe the Johnson & Johnson pause kind of had to cancel that one. But that would be something we would discuss as part of this. There are resources in the state where we would supply whatever allotment of vaccine that we felt was appropriate, and then we would work with the state to get mobile clinics out there. And then I don't want to step on the health center's toes, but they're going to be making an announcement soon about some mobile initiatives that they have as well.
Okay, and you stated earlier, just real quick, you got this archipelago group that goes around with possibly flyers and actually door knocking in different areas of the city?
Yeah, Archipelago Strategies Group, they were selected by the state. So that was not, they were sort of assigned by the state to these equity communities. And so we meet with them, and we had them do sort of a slow introduction to the city before getting right into the door knocking. Some communities went to it right away, But what we've had them do is we've had them really reach out and sort of get in touch with a lot of community programs first. So the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, you know, some churches in the area, Gateway City Arts, One Holyoke. So we wanted them to sort of understand the community and how to get in touch with people and what's going to work best. And so they've done some of that. They've also done some tabling, as in setting up a table or a little booth at Key Foods Market, formerly Seatown. And they've done some outreach work in parks, as well as some phone banks, meaning they've been making outreach calls. And then sort of now that they've established some lines of communication, the next step is to do some flyering. They won't enter anyone's home. It would just be a knock on the door. Are you familiar with the vaccine? Are you interested? Would you like to know more?
Okay. Thanks so much, Sean. Thanks for the work you do.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the provisions of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to accept the provisions of the COVID-19 readiness, capacity, and confidence in priority grant. We'll just stop right there reading it, Sean, because you did a great job, as always, giving us the details, and thank you for everything this evening. If there's no further discussion on the motion to recommend to the full City Council next week to accept the grant, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
I make a motion to take up the next item.
Is it number
Take up
5?
Item 5, and for the purpose of discussion, item number 6.
Motion to suspend the rules and take items 5 and 6 up for
Motion
discussion.
made second to take items 5 and 6 together as a package and for discussion and probable votes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Real quick, item 5 is, they're both from the police department, is a request to make a transfer from the patrolman's line item of $100,000 to the overtime line item known as 12-101-53,000, $100,000. The item 6, which has been with us a little bit longer, was a similar request from the patrolman, 130, training 20, court time 20, and incentive $30,000 for a total of $200,000 to the overtime, same overtime accounts. On the motion to take up for discussion, we voted in favor. We have with us this evening Chief Feeble and Lieutenant Hart to address the transfer.
Councilman McGivern, can I just ask the chief if I'm allowed to vote on this?
Chief, did we lose you?
We got Captain Pratt here.
I'm sorry, we got Captain Pratt also.
Can I go through you and ask one of those gentlemen if I'm allowed to vote on this issue?
Councilor Lacey, Councilor is
Lacey.
Councilor Lacey.
Hey,
Councilor
it's election year too.
Yeah. Jimmy, you got to get that name right, right?
You started at the last meeting. Councilor Leahy is asking if a member of his family would be affected by this transfer. Is there anybody here from the police department?
I think they're muted.
Captain Pratt is muted, but I lost Chief Feeble and Lieutenant Hart. They were on the screen a minute ago.
There they are. They're back.
There's the chief.
Okay.
Chief, we're on both items. We were wondering if you could update us on the transfers. I think you told us at the meeting, but if you could remind us why there's a surplus in the patrol officers and why the need for the overtime.
We got background noise.
Well, Joe, can I get the answer to that question?
We got background noise. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now. We lost you for a second.
We're having some technical issues. I'm not.
You are in and out.
Yeah, we're trying to work that out. And I have Officer Borrego here. If you can just bear with us for a few seconds. For some reason, it was good all night. We're just kind of struggling here. If you can hear me.
I can hear you now. It just seemed like you were in and out.
Okay. All right. So am I good now?
If I can interrupt you for a second, I just asked you 3 questions, I know. But when you were out, Councilor Leahy just wants to know if he has a family member involved with this transfer that would give him a conflict.
Well, it's a transfer for 100,000 to overtime. So possibly yes, I would say yes.
And I'll abstain. Chief, thank you. And Joe, I'll be back with you. I'm going to abstain.
Okay, we'll record Councilor Leahy as abstaining from discussion and voting on this issue. Chief, it's all yours.
Dude, is it those things? Because if so, shut them all off or take them to your office.
I think it's. I think.
Okay, we seem to be having you were really in and out. So I'm gonna do the best I can. For some reason, we're struggling with our Wi-Fi. It looks like our signal's pretty bad here, but I'm trying.
Chief, if you can hear me, you froze up after you explained the Wi-Fi problem. Captain Pratt, are you able to unmute? Are you in the station? Or are you from home? To our administrative assistant, Jeff, they coming and going? They trying to get back in?
He keeps kind of bouncing on and off.
Okay, I mean, he said Wi-Fi, and I think we all know what happens, especially if they're downtown. With Captain Pratt.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes. Welcome. Hi,
Oh,
Captain,
boy.
you're also freezing up. Jeff.
Yes, sir.
You have one of their telephone numbers, cell numbers, maybe the chief or Lieutenant Hart, and just tell them to work on it. We can do one more item and come back.
Okay, I think I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah, you're
We can
back.
hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. It's one of those nights here. We're trying to work it out, but let's hope I stay connected. You want me to just run with it?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, we're just requesting $100,000 to move it over. We have 5.3 pay periods left. Right now, we have 151,000 in our overtime account. That's roughly 28,500 a pay period. I'd like to move $100,000 in there to give us roughly 47,300 over the next 5.3 pay periods. Going into the summer months with vacations and things like that, it's where we spend the most amount of guys taking time off, so the most amount of overtime. Doesn't mean I'm gonna spend every penny of that, but I'd like to get out there and do some proactive policing as we get into the more active months. I will tell you right now that we're projecting an overtime reduction over last year to the tune of $300,000. So our overtime for the year is, even if we get the 100 moved over into our overtime account that I'm requesting tonight, and we spent every penny of it between now and the end of the fiscal year, we're still projecting just about $300,000 reduction in overtime over the previous fiscal year. Any questions?
Chief, if I could, this particular line item is for patrol officers. How many patrol officers do we have, and what impact is that having on overtime?
We're talking about the line item from patrol officer, but it's going into overtime. Well, is that what you mean?
You told us at the meeting this came in that one of the reasons there was a surplus in the line item was because of the Shannon grant.
Yeah, well, we have some openings, like 8, or John, correct me if I'm right, 9 openings right now. We're in the process of hiring. There's also some officers that are paid for out of grants, special assignment officers. So that creates overtime in uniform patrol. So it's kind of like a balancing act.
So the ordinance calls for 90.
Yes.
But the budget was less than 98. It was like, I think 88.
No, we were budgeted this year for 90, 88
for all 90?
plus 2 SROs.
Okay. And currently you have about 82. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. 81, 82.
And the reserves, I mean, we're working on lifting the cap so you can have more reserves.
That's correct. Yes.
How's that working? We got enough to pull from, or you need more?
As far as well, we're okay with the reserves for the rest of the fiscal year, because if need be, I can pay them, move some money around to take care of them.
So when you're filling the vacancies, do you have people to pull out of the reserves to become permanent?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We're hiring 10 from a reserve list right now.
Okay, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Chief, thanks for being here. Just one of the $100,000 is coming from patrolman's line item. So is it safe to say that the overtime would be used for patrolmen, or what? Let me ask it another way. What percentage of the $100,000 in overtime is shifted that would be used for patrolmen as opposed to, I guess, supervisors?
Well, it's most of it, I would say, would go to patrolmen, but it's hard to say. When it goes into overtime, it could be used for anywhere. It could be used to fill a dispatch, a records position, a civilian's position. It could be used to fill any one of the department needs. But I would say the bulk of it would probably be in the patrol division to fill the patrolmen.
Chief, and then the last time we do have the order for the 200,000. So, and I know you'd probably be happy but you can safely say to us that the $100,000 is now sufficient, and the $200,000 we can, whatever the finance chair wants to do. I don't know what the motion will be, but we can.
I've actually asked to withdraw that. I'm pretty comfortable that based on, as I said earlier, that'll give us 47,300, give or take, per pay period. And if, let's say, the next pay period we use 30,000, then it will still have it in there to carry over. So if we do have surge events and things get really crazy in June and July, it kind of works itself out. So I'm comfortable withdrawing the 200. And as I said in the last meeting, I never really planned on spending all of the 200. I just wanted to have it available, but I'm comfortable at this point at 5.3 pay periods left that $100,000 will do it. And like I said,
I know you didn't say you're going to spend it, Chief. I agree. And you're good to just clarify that right now, so that way we just throw it on the table. I just want to but the money we transferred tonight and the acting mayor signs off on, that can't be used in, or maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is just through June 30th, right? So we can't use this money on July 1st, right? I mean, so if we don't,
that's correct.
Okay. Because you were saying that a couple of times, and you got me thinking. I didn't know if there's a special provision for police, but there isn't. So this is just for, this will take you through the months of May and June, and then when we pass the new budget starting July 1st, that'll be the monies that you use, and any monies you don't use will go back towards free cash. True?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
So I'll make a motion that we approve it, Joe.
I'll second.
Motion made and second that we approve the $100,000 transfer. Recommend that to the full city council. It has been signed off already by the acting mayor, which, just to get in front of us, he told us the other night that he would be voting in favor of the $100,000. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. On item number 6, I suggest that we just use the return to auditor, because it ties up that money until we get it back to the auditor.
So moved.
Motion made second that we recommend we return the $200,000 to the auditor so that money can be freed up again. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Motion
Chief,
take 7 off the table.
Thank you.
Second.
Captain Pratt, thank you. And
Thank you,
Wi-Fi is tough, Wi-Fi downtown is real tough.
Sorry about that. We'll try to do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. One more item. Thank you, man. One more item.
Motion takes 7 off the table.
Motion made second, take 7 off the table. This is a communication from Mike McManus, as you know, our superintendent of DPW, on the American Rescue Plan and his suggestions for his department. I missed this when it came in. We made a motion to refer to finance, but this goes hand in hand with an order that I believe is in public service or public safety.
Yes, service Wednesday night.
And so I would make a suggestion that we just send either a copy of this to public service or that we send it over to the public service. I think Mike will be there anyways, but just to.
Just a motion to send we can send it to public service, Joe. We already accepted the city council. We can send it to another committee. We do
Okay,
it.
I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement.
Yeah, we've done that all the time. So motion to refer to the public service.
Public service for the other item that they're taking up this Wednesday.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you very much.
Good night,
All
all.
those in favor?
Good night.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night, Peter. Night, everybody.